It's a whole lot of us, that's my family. Wanna go higher, turn up the tempo, increase the BPM, okay. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM.
What's up, guys? This is Chris Morgan. Welcome to our weekly podcast, In the Huddle, where we ask current and former coaches into this huddle, into this space to talk about what God has done, what he's doing, and what he will continue to do. Really excited about today. Coach David Elson, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. It is an honor to be here.
Yeah, well, you know, the Bible says that, you know, a good name is more desirable than great riches, man. And when you came on campus, your name preceded you. There's so many people where our circles kind of cross that the day that you were hired, I think we said in February earlier, people started calling and say, hey, man, you're really going to enjoy this guy. Grew up in Indianapolis, played football at Butler University, and has had faithful over 30 years of coaching. And I'm amazed how coaches are faithful right where God's placed, and then he entrusts them with more. And that started off with you earlier in your career with Southern Illinois.
Yes.
And then you went to Western Kentucky.
Yep.
And became a head coach there, and the Lord has placed you in a lot of different places, and I look forward to talking about you. But let's go back to your days of growing up in Indianapolis. Tell us about growing up, family that you came from, and all that.
Youngest of 6 kids. Grew up in an Irish Catholic family. We all went to Christ the King grade school and Cathedral High School. I always look back, you know, on people ask about, you know, the source or how it all started with your faith and everything. And I look at it as, you know, mom and dad put us in a great environment, you know, to be in Catholic schools and experienced Mass every day. And then to Cathedral High School where got influenced by a guy by the name of Father Kelly, who always led our pregame Masses for football. And, but yeah, really very middle class, just normal upbringing, lived in the same house my entire childhood, 5421 Primrose Avenue. Just went by it the last time I was in town, just to kind of get some perspective. You know, 3 boys, 3 girls, and so my mom had 6 kids in 8 years. Wow. So a lot of stories.
A lot of competitive nature.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
A lot of rivalry and all that good stuff, but everybody's in Indianapolis except for me, and yeah, just very thankful. I had a really good upbringing.
Yeah, normally when someone decides to go to coaching, the coaching avenue, that sports were a big part in their life. Was that the same? Would that be fair to say at your family?
Yes, Haverford Little League was right around the corner. CYO football starting in 3rd and 4th grade. Yeah, football, basketball, baseball up until a certain point, and then at one point I thought, you know, basketball was going to be my thing, then reality set in.
So, man, I love how parents, you know, and I'm the same way. My parents were the same way, and I guess it's kind of hand down. You know, you don't have to play a certain sport, but you have to play something.
Yeah.
You're going to get involved in something, and that was the way it was with my family. It sounds like it was the same way. Obviously, you played football in college, so at what part did you realize, all right, I'm going to try to make football this thing I'm going to go after?
You know, I started off at the University of Dayton for 1 semester, and I went there because of the influence of one of my high school coaches, Jim O'Hara, and his brother, and then that just didn't work out. And so I transferred to Butler, but I was sports management, and that was when sports management was just kind of starting, and they didn't have that at Butler. So education secondary education was my major, and as I just remember pretty vividly, my sophomore year, I was in education, and I can remember sitting where there was this area we would sit as we would all come out to go down the hill to practice, to where our practice fields were. And I remember watching my coaches at Butler, Bob Bartolomeo, Ken LaRose, Dan Rochar, Bill Sylvester, so many that there's more, and they'd come out of there and we'd be tying our shoes and getting ready to go, and they were having a blast. They were giving each other a hard time, but you could, and they were a big influence, you know, on all of us, on me. And I just remember thinking, I want to be like them. You know what I mean? I want to do what they're doing. And so I told them that hey, I want to do what you do. So like my junior year, a guy by the name of Cap Boso was on our staff. He had retired from the NFL, and he was from Indianapolis, and he was my connection to my first job, and that's what got me in it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the story sounds so familiar with so many people that want to go into coaching because they played the game, they're watching people and the influence and the impact that they have on young people or younger people. And you want to model that. You want to be like that. So you played on some great teams there at Butler. We talked earlier about, the team getting celebrated as being champions. And man, it's always good to go back to Butler. But, you went there. You were faithful there. You went to Southern Illinois, GA at Southern Illinois. A great place to get started, but you weren't there long. That stint. You ended up going to Western Kentucky and faithful being at DC. And you get... How many years had you been coaching and you got an opportunity to be a head coach?
9.
9 years. So in the 9 years, under the 10 year, now you're a head coach at Western Kentucky University. Take us back to when you first got the call that, hey, we want you to be our head coach.
Well, we had won the FCS National Championship, and there was an opportunity at West Virginia with Rich Rodriguez. A spot on his coaching staff. So I had actually left Western Kentucky for the month of February. Right at the end of January, I accepted the job and started there February 1st. And February 28th, literally, Jack Harbaugh decided to retire. And we were trying to sell our house and moving to Morgantown and all that. And got the phone call from Wood Seelig, the athletic director. He said, hey, I heard you were coming in town this weekend. Do you want to interview to be the head coach? Because I literally was going in to show our house. And I said, sure. So we interviewed that Saturday night, and they offered me the job on Tuesday. And so I was back, I think, Thursday. And it was pretty wild, and it was different because I knew everybody. I had been there for 7 years. It wasn't like a complete takeover. I mean, it was continuity on the staff. We just had to kind of replace me as the defensive coordinator. And so, and then hired an offensive line coach because our offensive line coach had left as well. But so it was, I thought, a pretty smooth transition. We started off with some success on the field, but there was just a lot of things that, were good about that type of takeover, knowing everybody and having those relationships, and you
followed a legend,
in
Coach Harbaugh. I mean, exactly. Step in and really, do some great things there at the beginning. That was fantastic.
We did, and I look back, obviously all of that to him, because there was a winning culture, there was a competitiveness about the guys in the program, the guys that we recruited, and. So that was all Coach Harbaugh, and obviously that national championship meant a lot to a lot of people. And but it was it was pretty cool. I mean, I was 31 years old and had the opportunity to take over. And I just think, man, you're just so consumed with everything, you don't stop and take a deep breath. And I wish I probably would have done that a little bit more often, back then. But really. Thought we did some really good things program-wise, building and the culture with, FCA, with, having we called him a character coach, chaplain, those type of things. Because those are all things I went back and we weren't doing a pregame devotion. Devotion. Yeah.
You started all that. I remember that coming out.
Yeah. We weren't doing any of that, and so we got all that going, and had a couple different. Sean was with us, but then a guy named Greg Farrell became our team chaplain, and he was a local pastor. And so proud of a lot of that. I learned a lot, and
during your time, they even jumped up a level, correct?
Well, then
that was
the story go, we did okay, first couple of years, and then we decided to make the transition to FBS, and at the end of the day, didn't get the job done, didn't win enough games. And so the first year was '09 that we were bowl eligible. We started off 0-9, and I got the phone call that my services were no longer needed. And, that was 16 years in coaching, and they say you're not a coach till you've been fired.
Well,
So
that is a true statement. I'm in a Bible study with the host staff, this is a couple years ago, and we're talking about our identity in Christ. I said, hey, just out of curiosity, how many of you men have ever been fired? And every single hand went up.
yeah,
And they said, if you haven't been fired yet, you just haven't been coaching long enough.
that's right.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So since you went there, like what goes through the mind of a head coach that it's happened and it's going to happen, but how does that rattle you internally?
I didn't handle it well. I didn't. If I look back, that would be the first thing that I would say is I could have used some faith. I could have used. I should have leaned into that a lot more at that time. I just think I was bitter. You know what I mean? It made me mad, and the unique thing back then was we had 3 games to go and 2 bye weeks, and they said, if you want to finish the season, we'll let you. And I was like, of course I'm going to. That's one of the things in our profession I don't understand. I don't understand. Like that team of that year needs to stay together, in my opinion. And so coaches should be allowed to finish the season with their team. And then even when coaches leave for another job, it's like you saw some examples of that this past season when you can't finish the season with your team. And I don't think I don't like that. So I was able to do that, and that was unique to be, knowing that when the end was coming. So I just think, once again, I could have handled it better, when it comes to moving on, and I was probably a little picky about finding the next opportunity, and but other than that, we've landed on our feet and bounced back.
Well, I mean, no matter what profession you're in, whether that's coaching or whether that's even ministry, I look back over my life. When did God speak to my heart the most? Not so much an audible voice, but when did I really grab a hold of my faith and say, Lord, you're all I got right now? It's in those valley moments. It's not in the winning seasons and the bowl season. It's when it's a rough year. And that, all right, Lord, if I'm going to make this, it's going to be because you're carrying me through this. And I've experienced that. I know you have, coaches has, but it has to do something to you when you look back at when you took the job at Western and now where they're at now, that you had a big part in where they're at now, because that facilities and all the stuff that they got going on right now, some good stuff going on.
It's amazing the timing of all this, because you are so right. And I don't know when I got that perspective, but at one point finally I was like, you know what? All right, I'm going to stop being mad, and I'm going to be proud of what we accomplished. I mean, there was 14 years of great relationships, great memories, so many good things to allow a bad ending to, put a negative spin on. No way, and I went there on a way to a softball tournament this past weekend. My wife and I were meeting in Nashville, and so I took a guy by the name of Alex Downing, who is a great friend, and another guy named Mike Simpson, who were both just good friends. We had breakfast, and then I went over to the facility because a guy named Nick Eulenhop, who was on our staff as the operations guy, is still with them. And so him and one of their special teams coaches, Andy LaRusso, showed me around the new facility. The new indoor facility. The facility that they have is we moved into in 2008 and had built it. And quite honestly, I had a whole lot to do with the way it was designed, and a lot of time spent on that facility and getting it built and all those things. And so it was a really kind of surreal day to see. They've done a great job. They've kept it in great shape, and so it was like, a lot of good. And then I walked around campus, and I hadn't really, I hadn't done that in a long time, and And it really brought back a lot of great memories. And
That's good.
so yeah, proud of what we accomplished there. And you never like it if it ends that way, but that's what you learn in this profession.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that and being vulnerable on it. To be a great coach, there has to be a fact of being humble. And I've watched some of the great coaches that do some great things on the field. But at some part in our career, we're always, in any field that we're at, there's a bit of a humbling factor to that. Every coach does it. So you go from being a head coach, you kind of, the Lord places you a lot of different places to be a DC, to be a linebacker coach. Yeah, I mean, Southern Illinois, you went back to there. You went to New Mexico State. You made your way to Purdue. You even made some stops at some high schools, which was awesome, man. So to have somebody the caliber of a head coach at the highest level, and now you're just making a difference right where God places you. Tell me what faith goes into just really getting the next job, and where is God going to place you? Can you speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, humility is obviously a big part of that, and going back and looking at the greatest example of humility there is, Jesus.
Yeah.
And that is something that I've always, with Father Kelly and talks that I would have with him, and the way he was as a leader. He was the principal of the high school, but he was obviously a priest, and looking at that example of Jesus, quite honestly, is one where when I've been in those moments where, like, literally I was the head coach at Western Kentucky, and then I was the bottom of the totem pole making $11.42 an hour at Indiana as a quality control guy. I mean, and that was when quality controls kind of just started. And so to sit there and be like, okay, what do I do? What's my role, and how do I handle this? That humility piece is, hey, let's go to work and make the best of the situation that you're in, and know that by just working hard and keeping your faith, that good things are going to come from this.
Yeah. And
you don't know when. That's the other thing. And that is, I was just having a conversation with some people the other day just about just developing the trust in his will, and having the faith in, I say it to myself over and over, like, this is God's will. This is where he put me. This is where I'm supposed to be right now. And whatever comes next is going to be his will. And so I think of how blessed we've been. Sure, we were lucky to be one place for 14 years. Haven't been anywhere longer than 3 years since. And when I talk to people, oh, you're at Louisville, man, you're all over the place. You're moving and all this. And my thing is that's a blessing in itself to have these different opportunities. But it's taken a lot of faith to navigate all that. And I kind of lost my train of thought there.
I think that's where we shine the best, is when we come in with a humble approach and, like, Lord, here I am. I'm going to be faithful right where you place me. And I've looked at different coaches, the coaches that have been here, and the coaches that you see on TV or whatever, that they have such they want to win, but there has to be a humble aspect to those head coaches, because they're bringing in men that have been head coaches before. And,
Sure.
You spoke earlier, like being a head coach and now as an analyst, but I know what an analyst means, man, that you still got a lot of say in that room, and the coach has brought you here. You got a Paul Petrino who's been a head coach before.
Sure.
So you're bringing other men in that room. What's the best thing about being an analyst, and what's the hardest thing about being one of those head coaches that come into a room of people want you to speak?
Yeah.
But speak into that a little bit.
The best thing, it all depends. At the end of the day, in any profession, I would say, but people ask about, hey, how do you like it there? How do you like it here? How'd you like it? All is in direct reflection of who the boss is.
That's right.
And you got the head coach, and then you got the defensive coordinator. And so I've been so lucky to be, with Jeff Brom, it was Dave Clawson at Wake Forest. Brad Lambert was the defense coordinator. Now it's Mark Ivey. And they're such good people, such humble people. Don't think they have all the answers. And exactly what you said, they say, hey, this guy and other people that we have, with similar experience that I have, bring value, and they appreciate that. And so they listen. And at the end of the day, the hardest thing for me is, when you have been in the leadership position and you are the decision maker, or the final decision is yours, you've just got to learn to say, I go back to loyalty. And, we talk about having discussions, and Coach Harbaugh was, like, if you didn't have a good spirited argument, discussion, it wasn't a good day at the office. He wanted to have some confrontation and conflict. And when handled the right way, is a good thing, because you're going to get to some really good solutions. And so just being able to know that my loyalty is, if I think there's something that can make us better, I'm loyal to Mark Ivey and to Jeff Brom by bringing it up. If I don't bring it up because I don't want to, make any, hurt anybody's feelings or something, then I'm not doing my job to be loyal. And then once the decision is made, it's a Colin Powell quote that I've never memorized, but it's basically, hey, I enjoy the back and forth. I enjoy the discussion. I want you to challenge me, and I want people in the room to be challenged. But understand this, loyalty is, once a decision is made, we walk out of this room, it's all our decision. And we made that decision together, and you can't go into your unit and give any type of indication it's anything other than that, because they'll see it.
And I've loved watching you live that out, other coaches live that out. And you have to have a degree of humility to ask former head coaches into your room anyway.
Sure, yeah.
But you know what they can offer. And, a quote that I've remembered just over the years, you'd be surprised what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit.
Exactly right. That's a great one. Yep.
And man, when coaches and a team function like that, man, it can do some incredible things. And I believe that we're seeing that, because Coach Brown hires those types of people. It's said that Billy Graham says that a coach will impact and influence more people in 1 year than most people do in a lifetime. You've been influencing and impacting men for 30 years. That's a lot of equipping. What's some things that you enjoy the most about coaching?
Well, it will be year 33, and I enjoy getting to know them. I enjoy more the one-on-one, you know what I mean? Like pulling a guy aside, and had a conversation with a guy just last week in the weight room. I kind of had a sense something was going on, and ended up having a great conversation with him. So just having those relationship building conversations that let them know that you care about them more than just what they can do on the field. Then you can help them on the field. When they know that you care about after football and those things, then all of a sudden, when you do start talking some X's and O's, you got their attention and you got their heart. Mm-hmm. And so I enjoy teaching. I enjoy, really, and that whole thing had nothing to do with X's and O's. It was all about being a part of a team. It was about leadership, how to find your niche and where can you lead, and when, sometimes it's better to just lead, by example, and people will notice. And so those teachings and interactions are really what I enjoy the most. I love the schematics and the bringing a defense and a team together, and it all, coordinating and all that stuff, and seeing that all come together, and guys figuring, that piece of it out as well. But it's always really been, more like, those coaches that I had at Butler and I had in high school. Jim O'Hara is when I talk about, we do a hardship, highlight, and hero thing that's from a John Gordon book, and Jim O'Hara is my hero. Like when I think about coaching, I think about him, and because he had passion, but he had passion for people and for us as young men, and so you just try to carry that on.
Yeah, I love watching you guys. Often I walk up to the hallway in the offices, and you guys are in there looking at film, and you're coming up with ideas and ways how you can coach, as you said, just from a just a standpoint of all together. That's a great sight, man. Sometimes I wish I could take a picture just of that because it's beautiful. But even seeing you with guys one-on-one, like a lot of our guys, and any guys on football for that matter, pretty high percentage don't have fathers in their lives. And so when a coach becomes, yes, they're coach on the field, but also a coach in life. Hey, as you said, you're just not, something's going on, man, what's going on? And you can really not so much talk about X and O's, but just talk about the heart. And what FCA, we call that, and the term, a transformational coach.
That's right.
When you're a transformational coach, where you're making a difference in the lives of someone, that's a game changer. So you have to be a special person to be a coach, but you have to even be more of a special person to be the wife of a coach. Okay, so let me, your wife Kathy, y'all have 3 daughters. We need to come up with some kind of sign or something. I've got 3 daughters. Tell me how you and Kathy met. Give her some flowers, man.
So, second year as a graduate assistant at Southern Illinois University. It's August. I walk in, and there is a blonde-haired young lady sitting at a desk that had never been sitting at that desk. So I stopped and introduced myself, and she was in graduate school and was starting working in the football office. And so certainly my attention had been gotten, and so I started doing a little background research and found out that she actually had a boyfriend. And one day she was taking the mail around, and I was sitting at our linebacker coach's desk, and she was putting the mail down, and I just decided that I was going to, little icebreaker, and I just said, "Hey, how's your boyfriend doing?" And we really hadn't had much conversation, and so it was clearly a, hey, I am interested. And the way I like to say it is, basically, she hesitated on how her boyfriend was. So I took the opportunity and literally called her that night, asked her out on a date.
You shot your shot, didn't you?
I shot my shot, and we have now been married for 30 years.
That's awesome.
That's how we met.
Yeah, I love hearing a coach brag on her wife. The Bible talks about a wife of noble character is her husband's crown. And I'm around athletics enough to just feel a little bit of that, from being an FCA guy / football around guy. That there's many times, that I'm at the football complex, or I'm meeting with a coach, or I'm meeting with an athlete, that sometimes she willingly and understandingly takes not the back seat, but she gives time to know that I'm doing what God's called me to do. And therefore, when I am home, which is a lot, but still to invest time when I'm there. And so she has to be a special lady. No
question, especially with our journey, because we were, together in Bowling Green for 14 years. Actually, and then they ended up living there for 18 years. But this is what I've kind of figured out with when people ask me about career and family and everything. I've had plenty of stops. My wife and daughters have lived in 2 places. They've lived in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and Elkville, Illinois, which Elkville is her hometown. And her mom is there. We moved back there when I went to Southern Illinois in 2014.
Okay.
So her journey is even different because it's different, I guess, would be that we haven't lived together almost half of those 30 years. And so doing what she's done on her own, she is a very successful academic. She's the chief advisor in the School of Agriculture at Southern Illinois. She's worked her way up to that. And we have our oldest daughter, who is now 30, went to Harvard and is getting ready to finish residency and be a doctor of urology. Middle daughter, Jessica, went to Kentucky and was in their honors college and was an accounting major. She is a certified CPA in Lexington. And Maggie is 17, is going to be a senior in high school. And I have to joke that Maggie's kind of become the disappointment of the three because she got a 29 on her ACT the first time. And I'm humbly bragging because Lauren ruined it for everybody and got a 35.
Oh, perfect is 36,
and then Jessica
right?
got a 33. And so Maggie is feeling the heat right now. She's going to retake it. But that is all. And all of that is because of their mother. And that she was, it's all in love, but she was on them and has always been. And all of them will tell you that. She is competitive and she wants, the best story I can tell about her is we're playing Illinois State when I'm the head coach. And we're on the road, and she's one that doesn't sit in the stands. She paces. She's, she's into it. And we end up winning the game, really close game. But there was a point in the game where we punted, and it was 4th and 1, and we were like midfield. Of course, the head coach made that decision and caught some heat for that from whoever was listening on the radio and in the stands, I guess. It was on the road. All I know is after the game, we're winning. It's a great win on the road in that league. And I'm on the field doing the radio deal. And I'm talking about the game. And there she is in the background. And the first thing she says is, "Why didn't you go for it on 4th and 1?" I said, "That's the welcome I get after this big win." So she is special. And we've had a great time over these 30 years. Looking forward to 30 more.
Well, you talking about her successes and the successes of your daughter. You know the phrase that we use in football. You outkicked your coverage.
That's right. Know how to recruit.
Yeah, you did that, no doubt. So that's good stuff. We talked earlier about being a transformational coach. Where you're getting to the heart of your athlete. Then if you do that, a lot translates on the field. They believe in you. They know that you love them. Therefore, that love that they have and you show is going to come out on the field. And I think we have that with our coaches and with our players. I think that stems from a relationship with Jesus. That's me. Talk about faith. Just how faith has carried you through your coaching staff. A lot of times we talk about a daily time with God. What does that look like for you? As a quiet time and just a relationship with Christ?
I start every day with, right now, what I start with, because I've been involved with some high school friends with a Bible study. And it's basically, it's the Bible in a year. And so there's a devotional, a part of the Bible. And then we try, we do, I don't always make it, but we Zoom on Friday mornings and talk about that and reconnect. So that's been really good for me over the last couple of years. I have read, the next part of my process is Tony Dungy, his daily devotional, Uncommon. And so I take some notes and have a little spot where I do all that. And really those two things. And then I do some reading. John Gordon is somebody that I've read a lot of. I'm currently reading a book called Ego is the Enemy. And I've gotten a guy by the name of James Adams, who I worked with at Purdue and at Wake Forest, introduced me to Stoicism. And there's just a lot of good things when it comes to the Stoics and their mindset, and there's faith in that. But, that every day, starts my day. Well, I take that back. The first thing I do is I send a Bible verse and a text to my wife and 3 daughters, and it is what is said with that is, I love you and miss you. Have a great day if you want to. And have a great day if you want to comes from Coach Butch Gilbert, who was a Western Kentucky icon, assistant coach over the years for Coach Fikes. And he just became a very good friend of mine. And he was one of the most positive, great human beings I've ever been around. And so that's one of the things I've always kind of just to honor him. It's a mindset, it's an attitude. And so the way you go about things. So I send that to them and then pray. and then I sit down to my readings. So, but that's my daily routine. Always looking to improve it. You know what I mean? Try to find different things to read. Coach Ivy just gave all of the guys on defense a book called Words of Wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew there was a story to it. I didn't catch the story until literally right before I was coming over here. I said, hey, what's the story on that? And I've over the years have heard of and seen the tradition at App State of the Wednesday night Bible study. And so he explained to me that it's all, that book and giving that to the players is comes from his time at App State. And I can't think of the guy's name that provides those, but he led their Bible studies there. And you probably know more about this than I do because I just learned about it. But and so that book, it's Psalms and Proverbs, and it's a 31-day deal. So I'm adding that to the daily reading, and was talking to Coach Ivy about it. The reading of the Bible has always been something that I've struggled with, and so to break it up and say, like I was telling you, I said maybe I should read the book of John and just focus on that because of the different Johns that have been influential in my life. Yeah. And then I was telling Coach Ivy, this is what this book that he gave everybody reminds me is. I'm like, I can identify with. I think this is going to be really good for me to just focus on Psalms and Proverbs and take that each day.
I think that as guys, the thing about reading the Bible, I'd love for coaches and whoever to grow in their competence and confidence of who Jesus is. As men, if we don't feel competent, we'll withdraw. Yeah. And we'll just, if I give somebody this book and say, here, they'll first look and say, there's no pictures in here. That's right. And then the second thing is like, there's too much. Yeah. And so if we can break that down to just a couple verses and chew on that, like, what is that trying to say? Like, if you said something about, let's get underneath the hood of a car and talk about how this thing works, I would have no idea what's going on.
You and me both.
So I would withdraw from that. But if somebody taught me, hey, let me teach you. Let me take about 20 minutes a day or an hour a week and just kind of show you through this. As time goes on, you're going to learn. You're going to become more competent about what's underneath the hood. And that's why I love what I get a chance to do with FCA. Yeah. Is slowly take a book that's really, just could be very difficult. And not that I have all the answers, but to be able to just kind of chew on this. That old term about a cow just kind of chewing on the cud and chew on it. The more that it becomes like, okay, that's not intimidating anymore. Right. And you'll spend a lifetime and you still don't know all the answers, but to just bounce that off of saying, hey, that this is what God's trying to speak to my heart about has been a game changer for me. And I love it. Our coaches study with the football team starts, back when we get in August, and that'd be once a week. And I'm looking forward to that time growing. As I look at the life of David was a faithful shepherd, and then he was a faithful armor bearer, and then he was a faithful warrior, and then he was a faithful general, and then he was a faithful king. So David was just faithful right where God had placed him. And as you look back, David's life, man, he got to one of the highest parts of a king, but he was faithful in those small little things. And that's what you have done and are continuing to do. Just be faithful. It's a coach's thing, but just be where your feet are. Yeah. How are you? Obviously you've been a head coach. I'm sure that you probably have a desire. Man, I'd love to be in that head coach again. I'd probably do a lot different. I'd probably do a lot the same. How is that hard for a coach to be faithful right where you are?
I've thought a lot about this. It's a great question. It's a great, just something to chew on. And there's so much talk, and rightfully so, about habits, about, takes time to develop habits and the mindset and really, the mindset and go to your heart. I have had to just repeat to myself over and over and through readings, I think, I learn, most people will learn from examples of others, and we were talking about a coaching friend, of yours that is out of coaching right now. And I look at, and it just blows my mind, some guys and how good of people they are and coaches and that they're not employed. Yeah. And that they've fallen on hard times. And I just think over the years, I have developed faith. It's taken, like I said, I wasn't great when it first and when that first adversity really hit, that first firing.
Yeah.
It took going through that and then looking back and saying, yeah, it's not the way you could have done that a lot better. You could have handled that a lot better. And so I really just look at, I honestly was just thinking about this, kind of some self-evaluation. Like, I've become pretty good at just, hey, be where your feet are, because you got to keep saying it to yourself over and over and over, and make the best of your role. Like, you're in control of, hey, I'm not a coordinator, I'm not a head coach, I've been all those things before, but how can I make this role as influential as it can possibly be and impact as many people as I possibly can, both coaches and players, in a positive way? And that goes back to, I think, the one thing that this is all coming back around to this, that I have ingrained in my brain is control the things that you can control.
That's good.
And when I do that, then I can be where my feet are. And I say, all I can control is right now and where I'm at and being in this moment and embracing this role of whatever it is.
And there's so many times I miss the moment that I am placed here for, because I can constantly be thinking about the next step, that I miss the small little opportunities that God has brought me to speak into that situation. Prime example, just between being a good FCA guy and a great FCA guy. I don't know if you're ever a great FCA guy, but the difference is, I would think that a great one would be willing to be vulnerable about the mistakes that he had. Not that you're so high up that you can't relate. A great one would be like, no, when given the opportunity to speak into, you can look at a coach, or you're looking at another FCA guy and say, let me tell you what I did wrong in this situation.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how I didn't necessarily lose or fail, but I learned a lot through this season. And maybe me speaking into that can help. And I'm sure that you can do the same thing, being in a room where there's maybe some guys that haven't been a head coach yet, maybe just now getting to be a position coach, maybe first time DC guy.
Yep.
And they look to you and say, what do you think about this? And you're like, oh, this may be the reason. This may be the sole reason that I am here at this moment, is to speak life stories, things that have happened to this person to make him better. And I've looked at places that the Lord has allowed me to be. How can I make Coach Brown and the other staff the best staff in the country? Yeah. There's nothing about me. How can I serve them in such a way that as I serve them, they see Jesus in me? And that's why we need to be, as you said, be right where our feet are.
And that's so good. And it does go back. We talked about it earlier, the humility that Jesus, taught us, showed us by his actions, all those same things of being a servant leader and just having that. It's a mindset, you know what I mean? It's your heart, but it's just kind of developed as a mindset of, I'm just here to help. And whoever's in the room, I'm going to try to figure out how to connect. That's good. And then help. Yeah. And then, and if the team wins, everybody wins.
Yeah. I'm going to be a blessing today. That's good. That's so, well, let me ask this last question here. And I know throughout my walk, I think I've answered this maybe differently each time the question may be pressed. So the question I want to ask you is who is Jesus to you? Like that, again, sometimes he's my rock, or he's my friend, or he's my provider, or he's whatever. There's a lot of different things that you could go. But just in this season, where you are, who would you say that Jesus is to you?
I don't know that, I've never been asked that question, and I like to go with the gut and kind of what first comes. And the first thing that I can tell you is that he's my example. Really exactly what we've been talking about of humility and servant leadership. There's so many examples and stories in the Bible that, that's the devotions and things that I read. There's things that come up. Tony Dungy does a really good job of finding those and examples from the Bible, and then here's something in real life, and that's kind of when it all connects for me. And but all the books, all the great teams that I've read about that maybe you've studied, you've seen documentaries on or whatever, the large majority go back to the leadership and that it was humble and servant oriented. And I always go back, one of the best books I ever read was Good to Great. And they did a big study of the CEOs, and one of the 5 things that was, a factor in going from good to great was humble leadership and servant leadership. And so I just always go back to that whenever I think of Jesus and my faith.
Wow. Well, you've been a blessing where you've been, but you're a blessing where you're at. And man, as you continue to walk in what we've talked about today and allow the Lord, you're going to continue to do great things for Him. There's a book that we read as a staff years back. It was The Encore Effect by Mark Sanborn. And the whole premise of the book is, are you living your life in such a way that demands an encore? That people want to stand
Mark Sanborn
and just say, encore, what you've got, I want more of that. And I can just say it, man, that you've lived that. Obviously your name preceded you, but since you've been here in February, you're making our defense better, but you're making our team better. And so, man, I just want to thank you for coming on this podcast. Thanks for the example that you set.
Thank you. And you are a great FCA person, legendary in my view, because I've watched from my years at Western Kentucky. And like I said, when I got here to you, I was like, hey, how do we really know each other? And it's all just through the things, a lot of different things, but I have really, really paid attention to the impact and the growth of what you've done here. And it's really, really cool for me to now be here and be in it and be a part of it. And I look forward to that coach's Bible study. Really, really, just kind of a full circle coming back and being around people that, enjoy being around. And I can't end this without, at least because of wanting to have influence, and this isn't exactly biblical, but it's something that I think goes with the humility, and everybody can learn from, which is Ted Lasso. And it's really made an impact in my life over the last 3 or 4 years, in all those roles that we've talked about and helping other people. But the dart scene in Ted Lasso, do you know what I'm talking about?
No, but you bring it. Let's go.
Okay. The dart scene, first of all, everybody needs to just go YouTube the dart scene. I'll send it to you.
All right.
Be curious, not judgmental. It's all about, there's a Walt Whitman quote, and he goes through and realizes, because he's kind of goofy and people are judging him. And we've been talking about, the mindset that you develop, the faithful mindset. And it's something that anytime I can share it, I try to share it, because it literally every single day, in so many different interactions with people, with driving in traffic, it goes back to control what you can control. There's a lot of different ways to say it, but the dart scene from Ted Lasso, be curious, not judgmental, that can help a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I look forward to getting it from you, man, watching it. So appreciate your time, man. Let me pray for us, and thanks again for coming. God, it's such a joy to have a friend and a coach on this, to brag about what you've done, whether it's through the high parts or whether it's even through the valleys, God, where we learn to trust you the most. Lord, I'm thankful for his wife, Kathy, and his 3 daughters. Lord, just all of the great things that the 4 of them are doing. Lord, I pray that you just continue to use us in a mighty way, God, that when people see us, that they'll see the love of you. And God, I pray, I want, as your word says, to run in such a way to win. But Lord, I pray that our identity will not just be so wrapped up in that we forget who we are. So Lord, we love you and we thank you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.